ready? The Cornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Cornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Cornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cornelia Stephanie Show. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you. We have our stories of hope today, and we've got our first guest that is going to shed light on how to receive sexual pleasure and release the pain that a lot of us carry. And I didn't realize that there was as much pain as women are carrying when it comes to sexuality. But Naomi Harris is here, and she's a sexual pleasure and genital pain specialist. She supports women to heal their pelvic and sexual numbness, lack of libido and orgasm, pain and discomfort, so that they can live a turned-on life full of pleasure, passion, and epic sex. With over 15 years' experience as a naturopath, she incorporates psychosexual understandings as well as the de-armoring and other therapies to a whole person approach to healing. She works online and in person with women around the world who are managing a wide range of pelvic and sexual health situations and conditions. Naomi Harris, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much, Cornelia. It's so lovely to be here.
So what got you started in this topic? What was the reason that you wanted to educate and bring this important discussion out? Because obviously there's a lot that we don't know about.
Yes. Cornelia, like so many people, I started wanting to support other women in this area because of my own personal journey. And I love that this is a Stories of Hope podcast conversation that we're having, because the one thing that I think is the most important thing for healing in this area is hope. And I see the transformation that hope brings to my clients. And I know that for me, I needed to have the hope that I could heal as well, because that's my background. My background is also no orgasm, no pleasure, no relationships, and pain in my pelvis with sex as well. So that's how I got started.
So that's how you got started. So you're finding now that in your own journey, and then you're finding now in working with clients that many women suffer from pain in their pelvics.
Yeah, it's so common, Cornelia, and it's so not spoken about. Like, I have had clients who were in their late 60s, and this one particular client had been married for 40 years and had never spoken to her husband about the pain that she was experiencing in sex, because we don't talk about these shameful subjects. But we think it's up to 30% of women maybe having chronic, and that means like longer term sexual pain. And it's much, much higher than that of women who might have, like at one or more times in their lives, pain with penetration or pain in the vulva or just pain in the vagina and the genitals. So it's so many of us, and yet we don't talk about it. It's like there's so much shame attached to it. So it's a hidden thing.
And it's important that we talk about it, that we, educate ourselves about it, that we heal, because receiving pleasure is our birthright.
Yes, it is. Exactly right. Receiving pleasure is our birthright. And also this area of our bodies, I don't know if anybody's listening who's ever had anything like a yeast infection or a urinary tract infection, and how much of our mind that takes, how much of our energy just from worrying about it and trying to manage it, let alone if we have a chronic pain condition that is just underlying every moment of our lives all day long. It has such a huge impact. It has a huge impact on us personally, on our relationships, on our capacity in the workplace, on like every part of our lives can actually be impacted by something like painful sex. We can't just put it in a box and pretend that it's just in the bedroom. It's actually all of us. It's a whole person experience for so many women, and yet we still don't talk about it.
Do you find that a lot of women have sex just because they want to please their husbands, or for the lack of a better word, kind of just like, okay, I'm gonna give sex and I just want to get it over with and that kind of thing, and then they suffer in silence even though they feel the pain?
Absolutely, that is definitely happening. There's a lot of women out there who are having sex that they don't really want. But there's also, like we have to have a look at it. It's more than just pleasing the other person. Like there is the intimacy of that sexual interaction. And there are women out there who are having painful sex because they want the closeness and the intimacy that comes from it. The reasons that we have sex, people have written books over the reasons that we have sex. So it's not quite that simple, but definitely. And also, as women, how many of us were ever educated to speak up about our needs? How many of us were ever educated to have the hard conversations or to say the hard things to other people? Well, a lot of us, or not most of us, are taught to be here to be providers and to take care of everybody else around us and to make sure that everybody else's needs are met and to make sure everybody else is comfortable and happy. But for us to actually go, actually, I'm not comfortable and happy. It's such a big step because we have to let go of all of this conditioning that we've been educated in, and that goes sexually as well. It's
Is there a lot of like, is it even trauma and childhood wounding that shows up in that?
Absolutely. And there can be many, many reasons. And I think that's really, I'm glad you asked that because it's worth saying as well. I've had many clients who have said to me, like, I wasn't abused as a child. I haven't had sexual trauma, or I haven't had sexual misuse. I don't understand why I'm having this pain. So yes, of course, there is all of the childhood reasons. There's the abuse, there's the misuse, there's all like those reasons. But our sexuality and our sexual pain is so complex that the reasons that we can be having it is like so much more than just that potential that there was abuse that happened. So I would also say to anybody who's listening, who's scared to get help or scared to kind of unpack it because they're worried about what they might find out, don't be scared about that because it's not like 1 + 1 = 2 with abuse and pain. There's so many other things that could possibly be going on.
Yeah. So when people come to reach out to you,
Yeah.
what is it that they, how does the process begin? You guys get on a call? How does it work?
How it works is with a lot of conversation, with me asking a lot of questions. Who are you as a person? What was your childhood like? What's your relationship with your own body? What's your relationships like? What is your life? What does your life look like? What's actually impacting your body in this way? What do you believe about sex? What do you believe about your own pleasure? What do you believe about your own body? And that can be so subtle as well, Cornelia. Like, do you believe that you're allowed to have pleasure, for example, if your partner doesn't have any pleasure? Are you allowed to be the only one in that experience that takes pleasure from the experience? And, really subtle things are playing out all the time in the way that we're interacting with the world and interacting sexually. And so we start with really unpacking that. So that's one leg of it. And the other leg of it is what's actually going on in the body and how can we support the body to release. So you mentioned in my bio that I use something called de-armoring, and de-armoring is a touch-based method of releasing trauma, and we call it armor. So it's like protection that's being held in the body, and that armor can show up with pain and numbness and all of those symptoms. And the amazing thing is that we can actually work that ourselves and we can release that ourselves if we know how, we know what we're doing, and we know where the areas that we're working with. So I support the women with what's going on in the head, what's going on in the body, and then also just really practically, like how are they utilizing their body? Are they doing things that are actually setting up the pelvis for tension and pain? And are there ways to actually change the way that they're relating to the world through their body to release off that pain? And it's extraordinary how quickly healing can happen once the right set of circumstances are provided to the body.
Do you think that it has a lot to do with the women wanting to, like, like you have the de-armoring
Yeah.
technique or,
Yep.
process that you use. Do you think that, women that really want to heal, just having that intent, like, I want to get to the bottom of this, I want to be free of this, I want to, get better with this, I want to be free. Do you find that that is very helpful when women have that intent?
It's not even just helpful, Cornelia. I think it's necessary because, like unpacking any other massive part of our lives, as I'm sure you've had many conversations about, like really peak parts of our lives. If we want to really go into that and heal that, we have to be really willing to face the hard stuff, to show up every day and go, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway because there's an end result that I want to get to. And sometimes it's wonderful, and sometimes it's filled with pleasure, and sometimes it's so difficult and it's filled with hard realizations or those feelings of I'm not getting anywhere until you do, so really showing up fully committed is really, really important. Absolutely.
Do you help women with self-pleasuring?
I can do, absolutely. So, our amazing female bodies are completely wired for pleasure, and we have orgasmic potential in every single cell of our bodies. And often it's just like knowing where to start. Like if somebody says that to you, where do you start? And so I help women with where to start, how to interact with the body. I give a lot of homework. I give the best homework in the world, I think,
Oh,
because
good.
a lot of it is go away and have a go at this and see what happens and come back and talk to me about it. So, yes, I do absolutely help with orgasmic pleasure as well.
Um, yeah, I just feel like, a lot of women that are probably experiencing this also, they possibly feel that, they don't have a good body image, or they don't feel,
Yeah,
they don't feel they're beautiful, or they don't,
yeah,
there's a lot of shame and judgment around
yes,
how they feel as well.
absolutely. Yeah. And the wonderful thing is we can heal our relationship with our own body image and then find pleasure, or we can find pleasure and that actually gives fuel to healing the relationship with the body image. We can go in both directions because they feed into each other in positive ways.
Yeah.
Pleasure helps with body image like nothing else because when you feel good in here, it's like it shines out of you. And then it doesn't matter that you're lumpy in areas that you don't want to be lumpy because you're juicy and you're turned on and you're feeling good.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
I think it's healthy for women to, be free of this. Do you
Yeah.
find that when you ask, when you're doing that process of asking all
Yeah.
the questions, do you find that when you're asking women about sex,
Yeah.
that their sexual beliefs are, that those beliefs are really old and really
Yeah.
right? And there,
Yeah.
that's really a lot where a lot of work is as well.
Absolutely. It is unpacking all of that stuff and going, wow, I didn't even realize I believed this, but it
Mm,
was just taught to me as from such a young age that it just became part of me. But actually, I don't believe this at all.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely like really asking ourselves, what is it that I actually believe? Or what is my relationship with my body? Or what would I love it to be?
Yeah.
Independently of anything that anybody's ever told me it should be.
Now, I'm curious to the age group of women that you work with.
Oh,
Is it that's
everyone.
everyone?
From, I think the youngest has been 2021, very, very early 20s to late 60s into 70s. So women of all ages from all over the world, of all women. This is a situation that can affect every single woman, no matter, like there is no guarantee that it's not going to happen there's no kind of get out of jail free card for
Yeah.
this situation. It can show up for all of us at any time, depending on what we have going on.
And it doesn't matter how old you are, there's always, room to
Always.
experience pleasure and be free from whatever pain that you're carrying around inside. So
Never too late.
it's never too late.
No.
So you're working online, you're seeing
Yes.
people in person too. And right
Yes.
now you're in the Netherlands, which I
Yes.
want to,
Yeah.
give a shout
Yeah.
out to the internet for
Yes.
having you here today. And but you're also working online. How
Yes.
can the audience look you up and
Yes.
follow you on social media?
Yes, so my website, I am the Pleasure Naturopath. So if you search for the Pleasure Naturopath, you will find me. Otherwise, I am also on Instagram and Facebook as well. So I am very findable. Do you put links with this one, Cornelia, or shall I? Um, how does it work?
Yeah, we
Um,
do have links,
yeah,
but also when you see this then on YouTube, feel
yeah,
free to put your links also in the comment section.
beautiful.
You
I will
know,
do.
'cause that's going to help where,
Yeah,
different people watch it and see
yeah,
it at different times.
gorgeous.
And
All right.
so
So if you're watching this on YouTube, have a look in the comment section because I will drop those in there for sure. Yeah.
awesome. Well, Naomi, I just thank you so much for coming on and giving hope to all those women out there that are still searching for sexual freedom and being free from pain and wanting to experience more pleasure in their life.
And there really is hope. 100% truth. There is hope.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you.
Thank you, Cornelia.
We're going to take a break on the Cornelia Stephanie Show. We'll be right back, everyone. Welcome back to the Cornelia Stephanie Show, everyone. Jocelyn Bates is here, and she's a cultivator of curiosity in the human experiment. She's a soul art guide, Akashic Records guide, Yoga Nidra guide, and human design guide. She's also an expressive arts therapist, intermodal, and EFT master practitioner. She's been working with people for over 25 years in different capacities to help them find their authenticity and purpose in life. 2.5 years ago, she lost both of her parents 7 days apart, and she's been traveling through her grief ever since. The journey of grief has widened her lens, honed her creativity, and brought into perspective her life story. Welcome to the show today, Jocelyn.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Wow, I can't imagine, losing both your parents within 7 days. So I think that's a good place for us to open the show today with you and talk about what that experience was like. I mean, what happened?
Yeah, and this was like in 2021, so it was during the COVID time, and everything was shut down. And it was my parents both got COVID, as did everybody in the house, and they went in to the hospital with COVID, but didn't make it out. And it wasn't necessarily COVID that killed them, but we experienced a lot of all of the protocols in the hospitals and not being able to advocate and not being able to really see them. And all, there were so many restrictions and really feeling like I didn't have a voice in it because we were living with them and they were like second parents to my kids. And so everything kind of happened at the home. They just finished their 51st anniversary vacation, like they were healthy. and so all of this went down out of nowhere. And what happened is I went into shock. I went into complete and utter shock. And I completely dissociated my life for months. And I couldn't put it together. Like I couldn't put two and two together. And I think a lot of it for me was how it happened. And, I mean, anyone would be in shock anyways, but just understanding that like I had no ability to do anything, not even to sit with my parents through their death or give them back that, right? And even in the end, I wasn't even really able to visit them except for one time they brought me in right before my mom died, but then they kicked me out before she died. And then they wouldn't let me come back in to see my dad because it was like these COVID protocols. And so I had to say goodbye from a really awesome hospice nurse who FaceTimed me and like stroked my dad's hair while I said, I love you. And that was like how I got to say goodbye. And so that was really hard. And it was intangible for me. And even at one point I was like, their bodies were in the funeral home. And I said, I need to see their bodies because I am like splintering. I'm shattering here. I know I can't hit reality with this. And I was refused that as well. So it's like there was so many things that threw me into this crazy shock. And it took me like 4 or 5 months to come out of it because right after they died, it was my dad's birthday, then Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and my mom's birthday and my birthday all in 3 months. So it was like, or 4 months. So it was just a lot. And I wasn't ready to like look at any of it. I was just like, I can't. And then as I started to jump back into my body, because I was an expressive art therapist, I did know things to help me through. So I actually did write and journal and do art all the way through. I have journals and journals and journals of just free form writing and stream of consciousness writing. I don't remember writing it, but I think it kept a thread of me going.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that. And then I came into I started doing TM meditation, cold plunges. I started jumping into human design because my mother was very connected with that. She was very spiritual. And when I was looking in the emails to do all the financial stuff that happens when two parents die and it's 7 days apart, everything has to be doubled. Like, it's really crazy. I found one of the people that she loved in human design, and I contacted her. I said, I have nothing right now, and I just need to connect to my mom. And she had this Healing Your Witch Wound through Human Design program. And it was this beautiful community of women. And she said, you're in, just come and heal. And I think that really started me back to myself a little bit. Yeah.
She gave you a lifeline.
She gave me a lifeline.
Yeah, she gave you a lifeline. I mean, I'm just appalled. Like when you were talking about when both your parents ended up in the hospital and all the things with COVID and all the restrictions and all the things, and that you couldn't see them. While you're talking, I'm just feeling an outrage inside my body of where I just want to scream and go, nuts all over the place. So I can only imagine how hard that must have been for you, because I mean, that's just there just are no words for that. There's just no words, what took place. Those of us that just had to deal with COVID, that's one thing. But literally then when you have one parent and then another parent and they're both dying and you don't have a chance to be with them. I mean, that is plunging you. I think when you said that you had, you already had some of your spiritual practices which supported you, the journaling and all the things that you were already doing, that was probably the only place where you were really still feeling connected with anything that was going on. Like, you were in shock physically. You probably were just like you said, you weren't here.
I was so much so in shock that I lost 3/4 of my hair. And I lost 7 teeth within a month of my parents dying. 7 teeth of mine broke, and 3/4 of my hair came out. And granted, it was like a COVID thing, but at that point, no one knew about the losing the hair of COVID, and I had the grief on top of it. Like, my body was just like, find your foundation, like rebuild your foundation, rebuild the follicles, and like the teeth, get something in there. Literally everything broke. It was it was like traumatic on so many levels.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about, because now, you've, through this grief journey, you've found yourself back again, and, it had experienced another purpose and another reason to be here again in life, aside from being the mother to your children. And, but through this grief journey that supported you. But, you must have been, like you said, in shock for the first while, and then there must have been a whole lot of rage.
That's funny. I didn't have that much rage. My rage was centered around the medical system because of and it all started when I got their medical records, and then I knew what really happened. And then I was like, wow, now my rage is coming out. Right now I understand what they did. And that rage, and then having nowhere to put that rage, because you couldn't have a lawsuit and you couldn't do this and that because of the PrEP Act. So everyone was protected who did these things to my parents, and I wasn't able to do anything. So my rage got a little bigger then, but I had nowhere to direct it. I actually, for most of I've lost a lot of people in my life. And and this is like telling, when I was in the room with my mom, they wheeled my dad in, which was totally inhumane. He was in a plexiglass box around a wheelchair, and had a door on the front so he could hold my mom's hand. He wasn't even allowed to get up and give her a hug to say goodbye. Like, it was so inhumane, every piece of it. But he said to me in the room with her, she's suffering, and she can't suffer. He said, I can be angry, but I can't be sad. And probably 8 to 9 months later, I was working. So everyone's like, get angry, get angry. And every time I would try to get angry, I would like bawl. The tears would just come down. And I started to remember what my dad said. And since I had a lot of death in my life, my parents never let me cry about it. They didn't want me to be sad. I was like an only child. I was their child, right? So like, they never let me be sad about it. They never wanted to see me in sorrow. So I actually ended up grieving. I ended up getting sad for all the deaths I've been through. And I had a stillbirth. I've lost friends and loved ones. And so I just started crying for everything. And everyone's telling me, why aren't you getting angry? So I even tried. I tried so hard. I went out to the woods at like 4 a.m. and like where no one could hear me. And I'm trying to scream. And my screams are like waterfalls of tears. It was really
Wow.
crazy. And it's
Wow.
interesting that that connected back to something my dad said, right? Yeah.
Wow. I can understand that you were grieving, if you weren't grieving as you were losing things in life, people, things as you were a child and holding it. And then now you're grieving all the things. And then also at this time in our lives, we are grieving past lives and we don't even know some of the things that we're grieving. Grief is such an important piece. So now you're helping people with their grieving process. Is that what you're doing?
I do. I work with people in transitions, any kind of transitions. And grief is a major one for Gen X women, which is what I am. And, there's all kinds of life transitions that happen in that perimenopausal time for the Gen X woman. But no, grief has been a portal for me. And it's been, I have been 100% in it and witnessing and also being in my journey of how powerful it is. It's like when our hearts are broken open that wide, that much of a chasm is there. The opportunity for transformation is that big. And we have a little less of, I think, push against it. Like we walk in, if we can walk in a little bit, it can be life changing. I mean, the grief is going to happen anyways. We can't stop that, right? Grief is a lonely process, but it's also a universal process. So we might as well figure out how to use it and how to tap into ourselves. So that's kind of what I do through Akashic Records, which works with past lives and such, and human design, which is a big part of me deconditioning from becoming my own parent and being like that orphan and taking that on for a little while. And then I also work in yoga nidra as a touch point for the nervous system. And and I'm a soul art guide, which is so much wonderfulness.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's wonderful how you're how you've moved through all of that and healed all of this pain and going through the process. But here's the thing, Jocelyn, I'm really interested in having you on another show and where I want to talk to you longer, just especially about the injustices that were done
Yeah.
to parents. I want to hear the story more. I'm really interested in it myself because I just think it's important that we talk about it more. We're not done with all of this yet, as far as the things that need to be talked about there. So I'd love to do that. I'll have my Ashley get in contact with you, and then we can set up another time to you and
Absolutely.
I can visit, and we can do a longer show and go into it. But let's, for now, tell the audience how they can, follow you on social media wherever you are, and what your social media handles are.
Sure. I have my website is jocelynbates.net. And there you can find, I have like a yoga nidra that's recorded and a cheat sheet for balancing your nervous system, which is what got me back from the heights of anxiety in my experience. And I'm on Soul Sessions by Jocelyn on Instagram, and I have an Insight Timer account. So I do offer free Insight Timer live events and yoga nidras and pep talks on creativity. And I have a Substack under the same name, Jocelyn Bates, where I talk about my grief journey. So it really focuses on soul art and human design and how those two things have been walking me along in this journey of grief. So,
Yeah. What do you want to say to the audience today about grief? What's the piece you want to leave us with?
it goes back to curiosity, as a cultivator of curiosity and creativity. And I think it's that you have to get curious. You just don't walk just right by it, right? Just turn your head and get curious and say why and say, how do I feel about this? And just look at it. Just allow yourself to sit and look at it because there is so many gifts in it, and that's a strange thing to say, but many people I've talked to who've been through this type of grief have said the same thing. And it's really just if you can get curious and a little bit of courage and start expressing yourself creatively, and whether that means gardening for you or rearranging rocks or doing art or writing, just give yourself an avenue of expression, and that avenue, that stream of expression, will keep you alive even through the hardest parts.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Well said. Well said. Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for coming on the show. I appreciate you. And also, again, very sorry for the experience that you had to endure and your parents as well and your family. So we're going to take a break on the Cornelia Stephanie Show. We'll be right back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. Randy Atkins Jr. is here. He's a Low Country native of South Carolina, creatively weaves his experience as a corporate consultant. He's an ordained minister, community leader, and distinguished Toastmaster into a tapestry inspiring observers to integrate spiritual growth principles into everyday life. Randy's mission is to inspire individuals to be leaders, change agents, and go-getters. In Produce on Purpose, he teaches the reader how to experience a life full of joy, peace, fulfillment, and fruitfulness. Atkins strongly believes that God calls everyone to be producers. Producers intentionally manifest ideas that transform the world. Welcome to the show today, Randy.
Hey, thank you for having me on. This is exciting.
Yes, it's great to have you here. So, obviously, you are the producer of your life. You're producing your life, right? And
Yes.
everything that you're doing. What got you started on this path?
Well, I was very young when I really started this. Me and my friend, my best friend, we would come up with these contraptions in the backyard, and we would bring in a string, we would bring in tape, we would bring in all of these things like tarp and plastic, and we would put them together in his backyard based on our imagination. And as we would go and put it together, sometimes I would give him instructions, which I really liked, and he would do what I said. And sometimes he would give me instructions, I would do it, or sometimes we'd do it together. And out of that, we would create these worlds, whether it would be Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever at the time we would put in the backyard. His mom would then have us tear it down before the end of the day. But what I found there was that in our imagination, in our minds, there are many things that can happen and occur that can become reality in this world. And so those were direct pieces there. And as an inquisitive child, I was like, this I like. And so throughout my life, I kept thinking about how can I produce in this world what is nice, what is beautiful, and coming from the imagination, coming from that thought life.
Yeah, so you were doing that in the backyard. I love that. That is such a you two were setting up the scene, the movie scene of creating a set and then playing and acting it out.
Yeah, we would go and we would just be playing, acting it out, being whomever we needed to be. And so out of that, I really found that there are some things in our lives that sometimes we are actors and actresses on this big stage called our lives in a movie. And I like to call it mini movies or mini series because there are seasons in our lives, things change and transform. I'm going through a different transformation and season in our lives, or almost all three of our children are almost grown and gone. And so we're about to empty nest. And so there are transitions that we have. But as actors and actresses, we get to kind of look in our lives and be seen on the billboards. And when we see actors and actresses, if I were to meet that person for real, they wouldn't be that person that I thought they were on the screen. And so sometimes we do that in our lives. And so then you say, well, an actor and an actress, what do? They play on somebody else's script. They are playing somebody else. And you say, well, then maybe I'll be the director of my life. The director does have some greater creative freedom. They can, pan in and say, here's how this shot is, tell the actors and actresses what to do. But I encourage you to think about being the producer. Because the producer hires the director, they hire the actors and actresses. And if you are making this movie called Your Life, you should be producing on the purpose and what you were born for, whatever your creator has made you and designed you for. You should be doing that. And as a producer, you get all of your resources together. You get the people, you get the money, you get the script, you get everything together, and you have everyone buy into the vision that you have. And if you do that, man, what a more fulfilling life we all can live, a great peaceful life, a joyful life, one where when you step into the room, you're excited because you know that you are doing something that's special.
Yeah. I love everything you said because it kind of takes, if you're stepping in as the producer or if you call yourself the producer, it kind of moves your little human aside and you're not so focused on the victim kind of energy that might be playing out, right? You're more in charge. As a producer, I'm in charge, right? I get to make decisions. Like you said,
Yes.
I get to hire the people, I get to hire the crew, I get to do all of these things. One question I have for you is how does one bring in the resources, bring in the money to produce in their life a better flow than what they might be currently finding themselves in?
A great way to begin to think about that is, first of all, I always try to get everyone to focus in on themselves. And initially, I would encourage you to seek yourself because you need to understand what your purpose is. And in the book, I tell about two different purposes that we all have. One is a general purpose, and that general purpose, that is for us to please our creator. Whoever your creator is, my creator, I call him God. And so then if my God is love, then in order to continue to please my creator, I will be expressing love in everything that I do. So that's my general purpose. And that's a general purpose across the board for all of us that have been designed and created. But then each of us has a specific purpose as well. And this is where it gets very interesting because if you can seek out and find out what your specific purpose is in your life, then you have gifting. Everyone has a gift, at least one, and if not more. And you can express that gift in many ways. And that gifting, you say, well, how do I know my gifting? It's that easy thing that you do that everybody says, oh my gosh, there's no way I could do that. You do it so easily. And that's your gifting. And sometimes it may not be as obvious as some who may be able to sing or write or do some of these other things that we often put and portray and put up, but you have some gift. And once you understand that, then you're able to then move into a place where you are aligning I talk about us being a tripart being, like we have a body. The body's our five senses. You have a soul. The soul is where your mental, your will, your emotions, and then you have a spirit. If you begin to align what you're doing in your spirit, your soul, and your body, then with your purpose and what you're doing, then you're going to produce some of the greatest things in this world, some of the most creative things. And this is how your creative juices and creativity is birthed from within you to shine into this world. You have this light that you have. Everyone does. That should be shining in all places of your life. And when you're able to do that, then you begin to produce and you can then get resources to align with that. You can then talk to people and say, hey, I need you to do this and help me with this, because then they can align with your vision. You can't just tell people, hey, I just want you to come be with me. And they're like, well, what are we doing? If you know what you're doing, then you're going to be able to gather the people and the resources. And I say when you begin to align, then even money or other resources that you may need will be more attracted to you, and you'll be able to move forward in that way to start to transform the things and be a producer of your life that produces those beautiful things. It's whether it's actually doing something for your creator or is it for your gifting.
So beautiful. I mean, that is a complete, just a tweak in your life. It's an ownership that people can to take on the role, take on the job of being a producer in your own life, and then align with those principles that you talked about. Now, you wrote a book, Randy. Where can tell us a little bit about your book and where can people find it?
Yes, my book is Produce on Purpose, Experience Life Being the Real You. In that book, we talk about being those producers and producing the beautiful things of life. You can find that book at www www.randyatkinsjr.com. There you will find information about this book. It's an ebook, it's a paperback. And for those of you who don't like having to read and do those things, you can get it on Audible as well. And for this show, I'll provide a 25% discount to any signed copy of the book if you put in the coupon code INSPIRED. That coupon code INSPIRED for that 25% off the signed copy. And you can find information about my podcast too. I have a podcast called Produce on Purpose, as well as many videos and sermons and great information about life. I encourage you to provide me some feedback. All my social media is also there on my website, randyatkinsjr.com. So I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you.
That's so beautiful. I'm really excited to hear and see what you are going to create next in the empty nesting season of your life, and seeing what you're going to come up with. I do believe that, being a parent and being, a family, raising children is the most important job. And
Yes.
and that we keep a generation going that has roots and that has foundations, and that that is living and acting on the right principles. And it sounds like that is the legacy that you have created.
Thank you. Yes, we have. And we've shared that, and our children are doing phenomenal, and we're so grateful.
That's so good. Well, Randy, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Many blessings to you, and good luck with everything that you're doing in creating and producing your life. We're going to take a break on the Kornelia Stephanie Show, everyone. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm excited to introduce you to our next guest, Nat Couropmitree.
Nat Couropmitree.
Nat Couropmitree is here, and he's a multifaceted guide and mentor. He supports ambitious professionals to heal self-sabotage so they can deepen self-trust, reclaim joy and energy, and succeed in their purpose. Beyond his professional mission, Nat loves to travel, is a grandpa to 2 vibrant grandkids, and enjoys dancing the Argentine tango with his beloved wife, Olga. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much, Cornelia. It's great to be here.
Yes. Interesting names. It's interesting to get the names correctly, always. I always find that to be something to, say correctly. So thanks for coming on and sharing your story. So you wanted to bring out talking about self-sabotage, and you were going to share your own story.
Yeah, absolutely. If I look back through my life, there's been a lot of things that I've started, and then a lot of things that I didn't complete. And I'm sure this could relate to a lot of people. And then also in terms of like procrastination or perfectionism, overthinking, people pleasing, these are all behaviors that I engaged in. And, I just thought, well, it's normal, but, how do I get to that place where I feel okay being myself? And how do I get to a place where I can actually succeed in my business? And over the years, I've tried a lot of things. I've tried working on my mindset, learning, all the marketing and, all of that. I've done a lot of energy work. I've learned to meditate since an early child because my dad is such a big proponent of it. And what I noticed is that I could be at ease, or I could quiet my mind. I could be still if I'm meditating in a quiet room, or maybe in a group setting where everyone's meditating, let's say. But when it came to being in life, it was less comfortable. I didn't know how to be with both the uncertainty of life, the unknowns, or even the knowns, right? The conditioning that I came in with, or I picked up along the way. I didn't know how to be with that. So more recently, I've come to recognize that self-sabotage which encompasses this people-pleasing, perfectionism, overthinking, is actually a form of self-protection. That there's some part of us, often young, that is running the show, and it's living by these rules that it basically thinks that if you do certain things, you're gonna experience rejection, loss, disappointment, and it doesn't want to experience that, and so it creates those visceral feelings in our bodies, right? The contraction, the tightness, the however it shows up in our bodies, and we either want to run, escape, which was a lot of me. I was like, okay, let's find another way. I don't know how to face this. I don't want to do that. Let's find another way. And I took a lot of side roads and never really quite came back, right? And found something else. So yeah, so this was me of like, to the point now where, okay, I can see all of my patterns. I can see and I can meet those patterns and that part of myself with a whole lot of compassion and a whole lot of curiosity. And that is one of the keys to healing self-sabotage.
Yeah, it's a really nice breakdown of, another nice way of looking at a nice breakdown of where that came from, where that energy came from, and then how we keep avoiding it instead of bringing it out, revealing the pattern, and then going, okay, let's see what we can do to fix it. Because really, I mean, how many humans are out there dealing with this right now? That are really dealing with the whole self-sabotage from, the fear of rejection, with whatever, a blog you're writing or an interview you're going to, or something you have to prepare where you have to show up and you're holding yourself back because of that reason that you just talked about.
Yes. Yeah. What I see that happens is we have a thought about something that we don't want to happen. And it's often a thought that relates to something that maybe happened once or twice or several times when we were younger.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a thought and we project it forward as a warning. Like, remember that last time that you did this and this happened? Let's not have that happen again. And so your mind comes up with a thought, oh, if I write this, and what if people don't like it? And then I'm going to feel alienated. I'm going to feel alone. And then I don't like that feeling. And you feel that in the body immediately. Like, I don't like that feeling. And then people take that feeling as, I don't like this feeling, and so I don't want to feel it, right? We're not taught how to be with uncomfortable feelings.
True.
Right? And so then they go in a direction that they only know how to deal with it, whether that's numbing through food or overwork, whether that's being distracted, social media, whether that's doing socially acceptable things like taking care of family or, being helpers, like overgiving. These are all ways that we tend to engage in to avoid that feeling that came from the thought that it's just happening in our heads, right? It's like in a virtual reality that we're living in, and we're reacting to that, and that's why it creates that loop of never really moving through it.
Yeah. And then basically you become paralyzed and you're not moving forward and you're just kind of stuck. And then you're going around in circles until, that pattern gets interrupted and you create a new way of moving.
Right.
I mean, I think it's, like the same thing, like just because of the way that the human thoughts are and the brain works and what we do is, even when you're, when you're thinking, like viewing something as positive and negative when all of a sudden, let's just say it's your birthday and, you get all these birthday wishes from someone, from all the people. But then there's that one person that didn't send you a birthday wish, and it's that one negative thing that we focus
Yeah.
on. It's
Yeah.
it's that type of an energy, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're our minds are kind of just trained to zone in on the one thing that's not working, and then we make that we amplify that and forget all the other things.
Yeah. We forget all the other things, all the wonderful things that we are good at, all the wonderful things that we've created, all the wonderful messages that we've gotten from people about the things that we've put out and how wonderful it is and how great it is and how inspiring it is and how helpful it is.
Yeah.
All we don't focus on those things. We focus on that negative thing and make that big. That's
Right.
really,
Right. And to speak to that, that's what happens in self-sabotage, is that we feel uncomfortable and we make that the whole thing. But if we can slow down, pause, notice that, okay, I'm feeling this, but also in the same space is I'm aware of it happening. And I'm aware that in this space now, I'm actually okay, I'm safe. And I can be with the discomfort, I can be with the sensations and still be okay. That changes things.
that's good. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you've just gotten a tool right there of how to be with, something that you can, a pattern that you can interrupt and break, and the steps to take it. I love that you're breaking it down this way, Nat. How can people follow you on social media, or your website, or your social media handles?
Sure. Well, one of the first things is I'm offering a freebie, which is my process called Notice and Be With, which is actually that process I just described of noticing what we're feeling and being with it. So it's an audio product that they can download for free and then be guided through that. They can go to inquisitivejourneys.com/bewith to access that. Beyond that, they can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And my guess is that you'll be sharing those links.
Yeah, they're definitely in the show notes. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing your wisdom and your hacks to hack self-sabotage and pattern interrupt. And thank you for coming on the show, Nat. Wonderful to have
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning in to today's Stories of Hope. And we'll see you again next time, everyone. Take good care. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, Wake Up to Love, your call to action. Tune in each week on Transformation Talk Radio. Kornelia's joy is to engage others in practical ways, showing us how to live in the new earth in harmony with our true nature. For more information on Kornelia and her extraordinary work, or to listen to past shows, go to her website at korneliastephanie.com.